All right, so we have something here new, hot off the press. Just joking, but what it is, it's all about what's going on with all of your keys. You know, when you're going into a key and you're trying to be a person that's trying to level, you get that one pug group. You get that one pug group that you make a mistake and people just quit. You know, they don't even care about the crust. What is it that we can do? So we're going to watch some Marcillian. He's got Mythic Plus levers are out of control, and we need to fix it. So let's give him a listen and see what we can do.
Hello there. And also, bro, can you stop leaving my key, please? Stop leaving the damn dungeon, dude! What is even happening? We need a penalty system for Mythic Plus, and it's about time. Not everyone agrees, it seems, and I'm not sure who is right. Is the player that has over 4 to 6 hours time per day to do keys right for leaving time-wasting runs? Is it fair for someone who can only do 2 keys per day, researched, studied, played correctly, to have someone come in, fail, leave, and force that person to re-level his or her key, assuming they will have to?
It happens to us too, even in the community. Not that we have levers. I mean, we had a legend yesterday. We were doing a Pyre 10, and there were some folks in there that were not ready for 10s, but that tank did not leave. I was very, very impressed. We finished the key, though at a deficit of 4 crust that would be, and we did it. But he is one out of many that will stay.
Go through group forming again? Who is right here? Where do we even go from here? We already have penalty systems in the game, by the way. As ambitious and wishful thinking this may be, we really hope to raise some awareness with this topic, and maybe it gets to the ears of the WoW team at Blizzard. I am really curious to know what the community thinks about this outside of those who replied to our poll we made a few days ago. When it comes to penalizing people for misbehaving, the opinions are vast and range from "Nah bro, get good and go again. Why you cry? Be better. It's your fault." Which, damn, little brother never failed a key, I guess.
Or people are just, it's like people have become, you see it like in week 1. Now, these could have been people and players that were in PTR, but they're asking you, why don't you know the mechanics already? Why is it you can't do everything and make the first attempt at any boss a successful attempt at any boss? I mean, come on. There's no way to gauge somebody's progression when you're not there. You don't know them. You don't know what Greg in accounting is going to do, because he could be working his 9 to 5, coming home, trying to cook dinner, trying to help with the kids, and then sits down for a little bit of gameplay, only to be called trash. Only to be called trash. And then, of course, his wife doesn't like him on the computer because now he's not helping out or he's not paying attention. I mean, you've been there. I'm sure you have.
All the way to
My name is Inigo Montoya. You kill my
dungeon run.
prepare to die.
Jesus Christ. All right, listen. I shall be the arbiter of justice in this debate. No, not that kind of arbiter. Marcelian and I discussed this at length over Romanian Tsuika and Slanina and decided on what the solution should be. We need a penalty system. And before you tell us it's wrong without hearing it out, let me clarify what it is and why we need a penalty system to begin with, and also why the levers are not wrong. And all we ask is, after you watch however much of the video you like, if you like it, thumbs it up and hit that sub button. It helps out since we are dying to make more non-tier list videos.
Yeah.
Thanks for the support.
The tier list videos, there are so many. Like, there was a video, like, I had trouble thinking about content that I would like to cover because there, in the recent week, been so many videos on the housing. And though that is one of my largest videos on this channel, I didn't know how much you would like to have it. So if you would like to see more about the housing, by all means, let me know down in the comments, and we will make that happen for sure. I don't have a Patreon. You ain't got to worry about that. But I do like if you subscribe, comment, maybe share, leave a thumbs up. Would be great.
There already is a penalty system in the game for leaving queued up groups, which is the Deserter debuff. That on its own would be better than nothing, but Mythic Plus is not a queued content. You can legit decide what people you have in your group, in theory, and people need to understand this aspect in order to be able to...
Hey, how you doing? How you doing, V? That's a different name, so I'm just gonna call you V Caution. How you doing?
talk about penalties. First, you need to understand who the group is or who the bad player you are inviting into the group is. You most of the time don't know. It's impossible to know, really, without knowing that player personally. You could be inviting a Giga Chad into your group that hasn't played in 2 seasons but used to be top 1%. Or you could be inviting a 3KIO player that got there with his friends that played meta specs which didn't need him to interrupt or use defensives.
Hey, I'm not meta, by the way. I am not meta. I'm playing a Rhett Pally right now, and right now Rhett Pally's in the middle of the pack. So just saying.
On every mechanic because the group was being carried by their specs, and once he or she ended up in an average group, the same strategy that was negated by having a dwarf that can dispel bleeds will wipe, since stone form is not an ability an orc knows. So although using metrics like dungeon score, item level, or keys cleared is better than nothing to try and judge the potential of skill of someone you invite, it's not 100% foolproof. Second, that player could be you. You might have played in a previous key, week, or season with a set of players that, unbeknownst to you, handled a lot of shit that might have been your responsibility.
Oh my god, there was a dungeon, Halls of Atonement. I'll never forget this. I'll never forget this, because Halls of Atonement, back in Shadowlands, I jumped into that dungeon, and I stepped in everything. It was literally bricking keys with Achilles. It was literally bricking keys with Achilles, but we didn't brick it. They carried me through that whole thing. And at the end, because I was playing a Havoc Demon Hunter then, the leader said, that Demon Hunter looked like he didn't have a clue. Now, I was not a bad player, but I think from my lack of exercise, repetition, getting to know the dungeon, I just was on the floor and everything. It was bad.
Without ever saying anything back. So you just thought, oh, I can totally do this, and join the random group of people that would normally expect you to use defensives on rotation or pump more healing, because not everyone is a mage or a paladin with infinite survivability. In LFR, arenas, battlegrounds, heroic dungeons, and other formed of instance content you queue for, you don't really have that much control over who ends up in your group, and people run that content with the assumption that everyone involved is looking to accomplish the same goal that needs everyone present to carry their own weight and play in a cooperative manner. Leaving that group essentially makes it difficult, if not impossible, for the people left to continue towards their objective, and it is generally considered unsportsmanlike. Something that, regardless of what you think, it is important to have, even in a video game, so long as cooperation plays.
Yeah, that's one of the things, and that's what I was talking about when people are talking in chat, party chat, or raid chat, and saying, look, because this recently just happened to me too. I got kicked out of a heroic that I was leading, and I made one mistake. After the raid leader said, if anyone dies first, you're out of here. And he had to keep his word. I mean, he literally, he put his dick on the table, and he said, these are the rules, and I died first. Unbeknownst to him, I won a piece of gear, but I was eliminated, and therefore the weakest link.
Play is assumed or implied. Some people believe a penalty isn't needed. I have been a person to leave a group as well. Not recently, so cannot really show footage of it, but have been in groups that consistently struggle to complete an encounter, let alone.
I'm pretty sure we all have. I do it when I know the key just isn't going to be completed. I'm not going to spend the whole hour plus to go and try and do one key. It's great for content here for all the haters, but it's not a good feeling when you have the repair bills, when you have nothing but frustration, and then you have to remember this is a game. So I kindly said to them, this isn't going to happen. I'm so sorry. I don't want to leave, but we've given this a lot of tries. And then we had agreements. So then I left. So I don't think that would be something that you would put towards those people where you're actually having an open discussion, because you could see the key is fucked. You know you're not going to make the timer. Not a problem. You're going to still give the attempts, but when is enough enough? And I'm going to say probably when you're failing at the same boss for 5 times. I'm just saying. I mean, you got to know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run.
Time the dungeon. The dungeon was doomed, but that was secondary to people not even being able to kill the boss. That happens. It's normal for upscaling content because you are supposed to hit a wall. I left keys when I was salty as well, which I'm not proud of. I'm only human, but I should have been penalized. Or should I have been? This is where the line is hard to be drawn, and I do believe it's fundamentally not the player's fault for leaving, but a penalty system has to exist. It's either Blizzard who is wrong for making the content something people have to leave or they waste time, or the player's fault for wasting the time of the people involved who signed up to do a dungeon. Both sides.
Who would you blame? Who would you blame? Would it be you, who knows that you don't have the experience and you don't have all your gems, you don't have all your enchants, and therefore you're expecting somebody to carry you? I would put that totally on you. Blame Achilles always.
Sides need to assume some level of agency over the issue.
Toxic.
Blizzard and the devs are
You're so toxic, but keep coming back.
directly hurt by leavers because that eventually creates bad blood, negative vibes, and people stopping playing the game. Or worse, dorks like us that make public statements over the bad design of the content, which inevitably creates bad PR. But the player currently has no responsibility over the deliberate dismantling of the run, which doesn't keep the scales balanced on all sides. A poster on the forum said something really interesting. Community created problem needs community solution. I think League of Legends at one point had an inverse report system where you praise players in your team for their contribution, which ended up...
And this has been something that they've been talking about in other content as well. Leaderboards. Something that gives you an MVP, for instance, of like maybe a... kind of like they do in hockey. Now, I know there's probably not a lot of sports fans who play video games and watch sports, but in hockey, there's a 3-star system. You get 3 stars out of the game. And believe it or not, they give it to both sides of the ice. So it could be 1 player off of the red team, 2 players off of the blue team, and vice versa.
Up in a social score for that person translated into rewards. This sounds dangerously close to social credit, a big no-no. But if you really think about it, every person in your life has a social score you keep track of. Maybe it's not quantified into an actual number, but when a friend declines to help you out with a favor after you extended your generosity to that person, you likely remember that person and be less available next time you are needed. Negative social score is...
You know what? I heard this one too. There is a weak aura that you can download that you give the person that you played with a score. And you could even have a note. So let's say, for instance, they queue up for your key. Let's say you're hosting your key. You could scroll over their name, and if you don't remember them because the vast population of this game is so large, you can then see if you've played with that person before. And if you have, if you did exactly what I'm telling you, they might have received accommodation, a note, and a star setting, like 1 out of 5 stars. How did they perform in the dungeon? Were they always dead? That would be a note. You know, strong healer, but needs to move their feet. That could be a note. Sufficive tank, nailed everything. Always bring. You know, there could be that. And these were one of the things that also I've already seen in other streams. Are tanks the weak link in lower Mythic Plus? That could be another video we cover.
Is toxic, but positive one promotes good play. But in the end, it's still a system that denigrates the human experience to a number, which is a no-no for us. But there has to be consequences for disrupting team play, just like how those other types of content in the game already have. Once you are in a 5-man group within an M+ run, the sidebar menu should have 2 new options. One would be a surrender type option where people vote if the key is failed, and if the vote passes, everyone can leave the dungeon with no actual penalty.
That would be something.
That is only fair. It exists in other team games. League of Legends is yet another example. If the vote doesn't pass and you leave anyway, you get a deserter type buff or debuff. Now, there could be two types of debuffs. One we already have, which prevents you from joining another group of people for a set amount of time. I think it's 30 minutes. And one we had and maybe still have in games like Heroes of the Storm. The 30 minutes penalty is debatable. A dungeon run lasts around about as much, but forming the group can also last a long time, anywhere from 5 minutes to 45 minutes. Now, leaving a dungeon that took 5 minutes to make wasted the 30 minutes of the run, and then the 30 plus 5 more minutes it takes to re-level the key back to where it was constitutes about an hour and 10 minutes of actual time waste at the least. And this affects the key owner, who suffers the most out of everyone there. Someone said that the leaver's time is wasted as well. Not
actually, because at a certain point through this season, you're going to get a key that you know you can do, but that somehow got bricked. And what you are going to end up having is somebody that doesn't want to join your key. One of the things that I preach is always try to do your own key. Always try to do your own key. I've been through there where I tried to pug and I wait a half hour queuing queue after queue after queue to be delisted, full, declined, and then begin again. So that's one of those options that you have. But then what happens is when they break it, nobody wants to sign up because it's no longer giving the crest that they need. And that's why the beginning of the season is always so important, to try and get as many pieces of gear to myth track, because at a certain point, and you've probably seen it if you have your alts, if you're not in a community like ours, it's going to be very, very hard to try and get anything accomplished. It's going to be nearly at a snail's pace. There's somebody here from the guild I'm in who couldn't get accepted and just became frustrated. I piped in. I'm saying, hey, if you want to run a key, come to the stream. We're going to help you. So there are people that really, really want to make the effort and do what they can to get their gear. But what do they have against this?
Same level without a penalty system is not. The leaver can just quickly hop into another key of the same level without needing to level another key, assuming the queue times for everyone involved is relatively similar. But that's not true. Most of the time, healers and tanks leave, which are the ones quickest to find new groups, leaving the DPS players with a fat lip. 30 minutes penalty is not sufficient for this. I believe a good starting point is an hour, but that can still be debated. The stakes of failing an M+ dungeon are maybe similar to losing PvP rating, which is the closest they can be. Maybe the rating is worse. But the stakes are higher with no debate than any heroic dungeon or LFR group that slap you with a deserter debuff if you leave. The other type of penalty is a status effect that tells everyone you are a leaver for a long period of time, a day or a week. You can still join groups, but everyone will know you suck.
Oh, really? That would be a little harsh. I think that would be a little harsh. And you had to get your guildies to help you smash up a key to get it back up? Yeah, sometimes if you have a guild like that and they're willing to help you, that's what you have to resort to. Or you come here, Xantrell, you know I would have helped your ass.
Or you can only join groups with other people that suck. Now, either type of penalty we get has to come with the voting system as well, because sometimes leaving is very justified. Because the stakes are so high, like I mentioned, finishing a run that is failed yields very few rewards, something that has been partially addressed in 1107, where we get more crests for failed runs than before. It helps for sure, and I would be super interested in two things. One, how many of you guys have had keys you wanted to leave but decided to stay because it's not too bad, I still get decent crests and maybe a good item. And two, what the actual stats are for finished but untimed keys versus before this change was added. Not sure if those stats exist, but would be cool to know. Sometimes you want to push a +10 key, let's call it a Cinder Brew meadery. Now you've done your homework here. You know there's a cast you need to kick, circles you need to stay out of, and not to pull Chewie with a pack that needs crowd controls. All in the first pool of the dungeon. You know the damage intake is high, have potions, enchants, and cooldowns ready. But the tank pulls 3 packs with Chewie, and the mage doesn't
I laugh at this because this just happened to us yesterday.
bloodlust to hopefully salvage the situation.
I
and the
mean,
healer
I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, dude, stop fooling so much.
instantly dies to one of the circles on the floor they were inside of, which got them stunned. I mean, this is a 10. The mechanics are brutal this early in the season. People clearly haven't done their homework. What chances does the risk?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think about too. I mean, like I was saying, you're expected to know something about the dungeon. Whether you're starting at a 2, you watch some videos, and you learn what they have. Like, for instance, we just went through, on the video yesterday, 6 tips on dungeon bosses that you need to really be aware of. But when you go to do a key that is, I would say, 7 or higher, you should have the basics from 2 to 6. You should really go through and know what is bad. But I'm not trying to be a hypocrite either, because I can't tell you the name of the spells, but what I can tell you is don't stand in bad, avoid the frontals, make sure you're getting your kicks. If you're tanking, know what good combos there are to have and bad combos to have. Cinder Brewery is just the worst. To me, is the worst, because they will clap your ass in a hot minute. They will clap your ass, and then you'll all be leaving with your tails between your legs, and you've gone from having a 7 down to a 6. And believe it or not, you don't get gilded from 7. You get ruined at 6. Or you're not going to get this. You know what I'm saying? I expect you to, exactly. At a 7, you should know the mechanics
Of the dungeon have when it only gets harder from here. At this point, it actually is rude to be this unprepared for the run. The problem with these scenarios is that M+ is different from other type of content. Maybe comes close to heroic and mythic raiding. It's just not the type of content you can jump into with no experience or research, and a lot of people lack both, either because they cannot be asked or were carried enough where they didn't need to learn any of that stuff.
It's one of those things, and that's what happens to a lot of the people that watch my stream and many other streamers like myself. We'll bring people that are not ready, and we'll brute force it through. But hopefully the streamer that you're with will be explaining things as they go and not just letting you wing it. And hopefully you're bright enough to know to listen so that this way you learn, you retain, and you grow as a player. It's not just about the item level or the IO you have, because most people can buy that shit. It's about trying to make sure you feel good about yourself and you feel like you participated with your team. If you're not going to participate with your team, then get off the fucking field. This is not content for you. Or if you want to be a whale that's going to buy it, then guess what? Do just that, but don't sign up for my group.
And this all comes as a package deal with the relatively low barrier of entry of Mythic Plus, where anybody can go into a dungeon, as opposed to a Mythic raid or a heroic raid. If we put a penalty system, then the 1 or 2 players that did prepare properly are stuck in a jail called "this key is either not..."
That was a fucking jump scare. Holy shit, he scared the shit out of me. It may not have looked like it, but I'm like, oh, what the fuck?
going to be finished, let alone timed, or we have to be here for more than an hour for one item, one shittier item, and fewer crests with no IO score. Players who judge these levers for being jerks are privileged enough to not have had their efforts disrespected and ignored. While the other side of the coin, there are levers who leave because one kick was not done perfectly and they died, while the pack was killed slightly slower than ideal. Those players are privileged enough to have played with competent groups that blasted through keys and assume that just timing it is not sufficient for their time. Either way, there is no one side that is 100% right all of the time, and right now the side leaving has close to no consequences for their action, while the other just has to take it on the chin. It's just not balanced. We shouldn't perma-ban leavers, reposition their cars, and remarry their daughters into political relationships so to pay off their debts. But failing to see the other side of the coin is what creates the real toxicity in the game. Because let's not forget, we are all human here. Everyone fucks up. Zero tolerance is not good. Infinite tolerance is not good either.
Yeah.
And if you want to know what goes around in the mind of your healer trying to keep your butt alive in a high key, check out Marcellian's video on healing a 10 theater of pain on Discipline Priest.
Very good.
We did the first
Very
week of the
good,
season,
very
by
good
the
video.
way. So you
I
know the
like it.
spices are on the menu.
Very good video. I will share it down in the comments and here for chat. It's one of those things where I believe you're definitely going to have a nice you're gonna have to find a nice balance, and the solution needs to come from the community. Like they said, it should be a community solved issue, weigh the balances, and then go on with it. I wish you all the best in your key journey, and if you need some, come here to Achilles_1970, where I will help you achieve some of your best wishes, because I am and will be forever the oldest 3K Mythic Plus player in the world. There you have it.
My boy Achilles, I'm the Mythic Plus key breaker, breaking keys all night long. Sorry.